Hey, the vibes are slipping. I think it's time to bring out the Velveeta shells and cheese. The holidays are a time to go all in on indulgence. Headline your meals with the rich, creamy meltiness of Velveeta shells and cheese and satisfy your holiday cravings like no other. Bring that main course energy to your side dish. Celebrate extra with Velveeta these holidays.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit purina.com/purple to learn more.
Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for today's modern hunter. Mossberg, American-built, American-strong. Vineyard Max, deer attractants created for the aroma of success, game feeders, and other hunting products. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert. And the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, home of some of the finest hunting in North America. Now, here's Larry.
Welcome to the campfire, and this time we are in the great state of Maine, sitting here with Mr. Randy Flannery with Escape Wilderness Lodge. Absolutely gorgeous up here. We're a little bit early as far as the leaf change, but things are changing a whole lot quicker, and I think this year than they normally do, and we'll get to talk with Randy a little bit about that. But been up here on a bear hunt. The bear have decided that they don't like humans at this point. We've still got a little time left, so there's always hope until the very last moment. There is a gentleman in the room who did shoot an absolutely fantastic bear last night, so congratulations to him and the other gentleman that's with us. We hope that he will do the same this afternoon. But Randy, what a pleasure to spend time with you and Miss Sharon up here in this absolutely gorgeous area. Now, we had you on here not very long ago, but what I really want you to do, you're one of those storytellers that should be legendary. And in a lot of ways, you already are. But what I thought we'd do today is you've had so many experiences up here dealing with deer, bear, moose. And I thought what I'd try to do in this particular episode is just get you to tell a few stories. So welcome to the campfire. Pretend that soft drink that you've got is something a little bit more substantial. And there's the fire feels warm, the temperature's cold at our backside. And let's talk a little bit about hunting.
Well, Larry, it is always, as you and I have said for the last 30 years or more, it is always great to get to spend time together.
Yes, sir.
And it is especially a big treat that you brought the lovely Marianne with you.
Who happens to be in the room with us today, and that doesn't happen very often when I do podcast episodes.
I know, and Sharon and I dearly love her. She is such a wonderful woman, and you are a blessed man.
And I am smart enough to realize that.
So as far as hunting goes, we pretty much do it all. I tell everybody, if you can kill it and grill it in Maine, we do it. We
You do?
Yeah, we do. We go from bear to moose to grouse and woodcock, duck hunting, snowshoe hare hunting, to whitetail. And on top of that, we fish a dozen lakes, 5 rivers, close to 30 trout brooks, and I have, as you know, because you've met quite a few of them, I have top-notch guides because I go after the guides I want. And, even though I get calls by a lot of guides that want me to hire them, because I know a lot of that has to do with the magazine articles and the seminars and all that stuff, but But I found that if I find a good guide, I literally investigate and find out how good he really is, and then I'll hire him. And as you know from being around here and meeting some of my guys, these guys are top hands.
They are the best, and not just in terms of knowing the game and knowing the country, knowing the habits of these animals, in terms of knowing how to deal with people.
Absolutely.
They've got unbelievably great people skills. I've watched one guide really mess around with one of the clients that he has right now, and really they go at each other tooth and nail in a fun kind of way, and they're both giggling and laughing the whole time. And the other guy that he's with, he's handling him a whole lot differently. And to me, that's the sign of somebody who knows how to judge people and knows how to deal with people.
It's exactly right.
So I'm totally impressed with the operation. I knew I would be. Of course, I've known you and Miss Sharon for a while now, for a good long time now. And this is the first opportunity that we've had to come up here and really spend time together in camp. Good Lord willing, it will be a regular thing in the future, as far as I'm concerned. You're gonna have to lock the gates and all that other kind of stuff, and not let me come back.
We certainly won't do that. But you are always welcome. But I can tell you this much: if you want to get on the wrong side of Miss Sharon, you don't bring Marianne with you, because she's going to want Marianne to be here as well. So,
I think that's going to go without, because I know Marianne loves this North Country as well too. Let's talk a little bit about, what are some of your favorite whitetail stories? Pick out a buck or two. We're sitting here in your lodge, and there's several bucks in here, mounted, and bears as well too, and your son's moose over in the other room. But what's one of your favorite whitetail deer stories?
Well, keep in mind that I'm a tracker,
right?
What the old timers call jump shooters, because that's pretty much what we do. And there's nothing I would rather do than track a buck in the snow. Nothing. I used to tell Sharon, much to her chagrin, I used to tell her that I'd rather track a buck in the snow in bad weather than go on a cruise to Hawaii in good weather. But, I was blessed to be brought up into a family of jump shooters, and that's pretty much how we hunt them.
Yes, sir.
So, I love to teach people. I learned to track and stock hunt, where we literally take people one-on-one and teach them how to track and stock. Right. That's put us on the map. And, and our deer tracking and stalking schools are a big success. But when I get a chance to hunt myself, get to do some hunting myself, which doesn't happen too often because I'm usually guiding somebody else. But one of the bucks I got, one story is matter of fact, he's on the wall next door, and he's a big 9-pointer that field dressed 217. And I tracked him off the road we were on last night.
Right.
Okay, and I tracked him over 2 ridges through 2 cedar swamps, and I was 5 1/4 miles from the road when I killed him. And I killed him late in the afternoon. I drug him to a brook, tied some ribbons around the tree not far from him, marked on the brook on the map where I left him. And I knew by this time it was after 3 in the afternoon, and I had a 5.5 mile walk. Now, I've been walking through the woods in the dark since I was a kid using a flashlight, so that don't bother me. But,
right.
But you're always better off getting to the road as soon as you can and then walking the road back to your truck. So where I messed up on this deal is I started heading. There was a dead-end spur road to the northeast, and I started heading there, and I'm going at a quick pace after I left the buck. And by the way, I took my sweaty T-shirt off and I drug it over his head to keep the coyotes and the bobcats and the lynx away.
Right.
Anyways, I walked about 20 minutes, and then I realized, you better start heading northeast, because that's a dead-end spur road. And if I kept on going the way I was going, I would have walked right past the end of that road, and I'd still be walking. And it was already an adventurous day, because this buck, when I was tracking him, he took me on up and down and through and back and forth. And I cut his track at first light, and I ended up killing him about between 1 and 2 in the afternoon. And, he tried his darndest to shake me. I jumped him out of his bed a couple times, and the longest time in your life is when you're tracking a buck, if you jump him out of his bed twice, you got to sit down and relax for a half hour, 40 minutes, and let him forget about you. Because if you stay right on him, even though you want to, because, you don't want to lose him, but if you don't give that buck some time to forget about you, you're never going to see him again. Because he'll line right, once he hears you, he'll line right out, and you're never going to see him again. So I had to do that throughout the course of the day. And he took me into a couple of doe groups where there's tracks everywhere, and at one point he jumped over a blowdown, which when you're tracking a buck and he jumps, there's different things when you're tracking, like if they step to the side, they're basically looking behind them, checking their back trail. Or if they spin around, that buck right there on the wall, that's how I killed him. He had spun around in the jack fur, and he was checking his back trail looking for me. So this buck pretty much did it all. And when a buck jumps over an object, he's telling you that I know that you're after me, and he's trying to shake you. They'll jump right over an object 20, 25 feet, and they'll hit the ground running. So what I did with this buck is I teardropped the track. What I'll do is I'll go to where, I'll walk around the obstacle, find his track again, look at the direction he's going, and then I'll just swing wide about 300 yards at a fast pace, and then I'll hook and I'll parallel the track where he's going at a fast pace, and I'll go up 600-700 yards. And you got to do it at a fast pace, because he jumped over that obstacle and he's moving pretty fast. He's only going to go a couple 300 yards or so, and then he's going to slow to a trot or a walk. But if you want to intersect him up ahead, you got to do it at a fast pace. So that's what I did, and I went up about 600-700 yards, and I came at a fast pace. And I've shot a lot of bucks like this, Larry, but you got to keep it a fast pace, or you're going to be behind them. You're not going to be there. But every time I have killed a buck using this technique, I no sooner get back to the track and he's there. It's like you're no sooner getting there, and there he is, and you're shooting at him. And that was the case with this buck. And I was already pretty tired, because I had tracked him from first light till, like I said, almost between 1:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning, in the afternoon, and then after going 600-700 yards at a fast pace, I was already, all sweaty from tracking him and everything, and it was a nonstop day because he pulled out all the stops, and I no sooner got there, and he heard me. And he spun around like a quarter horse, and he started heading back in the direction he was going. And I'll be honest with you, I threw 5 of them as fast as I could send them.
Right.
I hit him 2 out of the 5, and I don't know which ones I hit him with, and I really don't care.
Don't make a difference.
Don't make a difference. Safety first. Make sure you target.
Yes,
but
sir.
But anyways, he piled up, and he ended up being 217 and dressed, and that was quite a story, and I can't remember if Field and Stream or Outdoor Life did the article on it, but they called it Randy Flannery's Swamp Romp.
Swamp Romp.
Swamp Romp. So, but that was a great hunt. It was except for the 35, 40 minutes, I sat down on a blowdown to let him forget about me. Other than that, that was a fast-paced track from start to finish.
And this terrain is not necessarily easy to get around in.
Oh, no.
And particularly when you kick in the trees and everything else, and just walking back and forth through the bear baits that we've been doing.
Oh, yeah.
I've been looking and I'm going, you'd have to be in pretty good shape to spend the day doing what you did right there.
You absolutely do. And as you see, where we're at, it is very hilly.
Very hilly, yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, the whole county is one hill after the other. I mean, and it's very hilly. So yeah, you and in between them hills are cedar swamps and brooks, and
right.
So it ain't for the
and
faint.
Blowdowns.
And blowdowns. And well, that buck, I went back in the next day. But what I did was, after 20 minutes walking out towards that road to the northeast, that dead end spur road, I realized that I better make an adjustment, and instead of heading northeast, I started heading northeast, and it's a pretty good thing because I only hit that road and I was probably in the dock maybe 35, 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. 35, 40 minutes before I hit that road, and I only hit it by 150 yards. If I kept going the way I was going, I would have walked right
You'd
by
walk right past it, yeah.
Walked right by the end of it. And then I ended up walking the road back to my truck. I didn't get to my truck till after 1 a.m. And then the next day, I'm back in there, by myself to get that buck out. And I ended up hitching him out. And hitching is when you step backwards and pull him towards you, because of the blowdowns
right.
and all the stuff in the way. But I ended up pretty much hitching him out, and I had to hitch him out for about 1.5 miles, but that's a heck of a lot better than 5.5.
Yes, particularly in that country. Anything you can cut the distance on from what I've seen, I would definitely want to do.
Oh yeah. But there's nothing I'd rather do than track a buck in the snow. I mean, and that particular day, it was snowing and then raining and then snowing and then raining. So we didn't have, ideal conditions are like 6 inches of fresh snow with the snow falling.
Right.
But that the snow, the rain was melting the snow because the temperature got warmer and everything. I had a wicked sweat going on by the end.
I can imagine. Yeah,
because it was nonstop.
Particularly when you're moving like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care what you do. You can strip down as far as you want to, and that's safe, quite frankly. And you're going to end up sweating wet, kind of thing, when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Okay, that was in the snow. Now you don't hunt in the snow all the time.
No.
What about, you do a fair amount of stuff, what most people would call here probably still hunting, but the true fact is it's probably truly stalking.
Yeah.
How do you hunt in those kind of situations? Particularly, let's say the leaves have fallen, or they're falling and they're like potato chips. How do you hunt when that kind of situation comes up?
Well, my grandfather, who taught everybody in the family how to track and stalk, when people would ask him, how do you keep killing these big bucks year in, year out? And he would say, when the ground is soft from sun, rain, or snow, track, because you can see a track.
Right.
If not, cross-cut the wind and stalk. So, Larry, that's pretty much what we do. We're tracking when we have tracking conditions.
Right.
And when we don't, we're stalking and we're adapting to the conditions the good Lord give us. But we cross-cut the wind. Now, another thing that we do is you got to sound like a deer. So, I was always taught that when it's quiet, try to be quiet. When it isn't quiet, don't try to be quiet, because all you do is sound like a man trying to be quiet. And the deer hear that 300 yards ahead of you, and they're off and running, and you're never even going to hear them, never mind see them. So when you sound like a deer, they will hold. So if it's noisy conditions, remember deer have 4 legs, we have 2. Shorten your steps, bury your toes, and walk, as my grandfather would call it, 3 steps level. So, and what he meant by level is your feet are level side by side. Okay, I don't do that. what I do is I start with my left foot because I'm right-handed, so I can swing to shoot this way or step to shoot this way. So I got it covered, because you always got to be prepared. So 3 steps level, you bury your toes in the snow at a quick pace. So you want to sound, and you sound like a deer. And when you do that, they'll hold. They'll hold. As long as they don't see you or wind you or whatever.
Right.
So, and another thing is, every 4th or 5th time you stop, I drop to one knee and scan the woods, because the whole world is different at 3 feet. Get down to their level.
Yes, sir. And
you're looking for the white throat patch, the white around their eye, a flicker of an ear or a tail, a horizontal line in the woods, which would be their back, a leg, a horn. Don't ever look for the whole deer. Look for a piece of a deer, and always be ready to shoot fast and with fast follow-up shots, because that's reality when it comes to your feet on the ground and on the move. That's the reality. You got to have the ability to shoot fast and with fast follow-up shots if you expect to have any success. So that's how we do it. And cross-cutting the wind, you know where they're going, because they're going to go downwind when you jump them. They're not necessarily going to start out downwind. Usually when you're cross-cutting the wind stalking, and you jump a buck, say 30, 40, 50 yards ahead of you. All right? Don't get me wrong. When he jumps up, I'm giving it to him if I have the shots.
Right.
Okay? But if I don't have the shots, keep in mind that buck's going to run 75 to 175, 250, maybe 275 yards, not usually much farther than that. And then they're going to swing. They may not start out downwind, but then they're going to swing to the downwind side because they want to smell you. So if I can't shoot them when I jump them up, I'm going to run on a 45-degree angle, not right with the wind, but I'm going to run downwind on a 45-degree angle, 100, 125 yards. I'm going to take a deep breath. Now keep in mind, while you're running, the buck's running, so he can't hear you run. And I'll run on a 45-degree angle, and right before I drop to one knee, because you either want to drop to one knee or you want to get in between some trees or behind a big tree, because you don't want to stand out in the open, because they stay alive for a living. And if you're standing out in the open and they pick you up, they're going to know what jumped them, and they're going to be out of there. So I usually drop to one knee, and I'll take a deep breath. It slows your heart rate, because they may show up quicker than you think. So I drop to one knee. I keep my gun at the ready, and I'll wait 20 minutes, half hour, and you'll hear him. And when you see that buck, it may be 45 minutes before he comes by. Sometimes I've had him come in 10 minutes, but when you see that buck, he's going to be looking over to where I jumped him, just like these bucks that are mounted behind me here. That's how I killed them. Right? He's going to be looking over to where you jumped him, and you're going to be off to the side waiting for him, and he's going to have no idea that you're there. And that is one of the best tactics, probably the best tactic for stalking that I was taught by my grandfather, and I can't begin to tell you how many people I have taught that to, who have called me about bucks they've killed using that tactic and thanking me, and so it really works, and you just got to make sure that you're cross-cutting the wind, and you basically make sure that you run far enough, which is 100, 125 yards.
I think there's a common misconception about what you're talking about, because so very often people think if you jump a deer, you're just going to keep running into the wind.
Right.
And that's not the case.
No, sir.
And I mean, I've seen it too in Texas and elsewhere, where they're going to come around. They live by their eyes and ears, but they live and die by their nose.
Amen.
And so always, I've seen that happen so many times. But a lot of people go, well, I jumped him. He's just going to keep running in the wind. You know, he's going to be ahead of me somewhere. And that's not the case. No. They really want to find out what the danger source is, if it's something they need to be worried about or not, you know, kind of thing. And so that is such a great way of doing it right there. And I hope people are paying attention, because if they do, even if you're just still hunting in Texas or wherever, if you'll pay attention to what Randy just said, your chances of taking that buck are increased, greatly increased.
And you are spot on. By the way, as you know, I've guided all over Texas.
Well, I know you have.
And I love the state of Texas, and I have done with clients. I have done that move on whitetails in Texas with people I was guiding, and they were blown away by it. They were literally where I'd grab somebody by the arm and say, "Let's go." You know what I mean? And, you know, but you're another thing. You're spot on as far as the wind in the face thing, because I tell people in every one of my seminars that if you're walking with the wind in your face and you jump a buck, he's still going to run 75 to 175 up to his 250 or 275 yards or more. And as you continue to walk looking for that buck that you jumped a while ago, before too long, he's going to be standing behind you, watching you walk away from him, because he's going to go downwind. Again, he may not start out that way, but he's going to go downwind. And people don't realize how many times they jump a deer, and before too long, it's standing behind them, watching them walk away from them. And what I say in every seminar is, if you pay real close attention and you listen real good, you'll hear that buck laughing at you.
Right.
Because he's going to go downwind.
Right. Yeah.
Without question. Another really good, just a little hitch to this same technique. If you're cross-cutting the wind and you're stalking through the woods and you jump a buck out in front of you and he blows at you, he's telling you he either winded you, seen you, or you at least made him nervous. And in that case, Larry, I run right at him. And this time I'm going to run 125 to 150 yards because he was nervous. He's going to run a little bit further. But how many times, and I know for a fact that hundreds and hundreds of times, as much time as you spent in the woods, you've jumped deer only to have them run 60 to 100 yards or maybe 125, and then just turn sideways to look back at their back trail, or slow to a trot, checking their back trail. And that's after they blew at you, because they're curious.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
They're curious.
Yes,
so
sir.
when you run right at them after they blow at you, you know, you'll get a whack at them as they're making that turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've seen the same thing happen numerous times in Texas, particularly in some of the western stuff where there were vantage points that I could get onto, and I've also watched other guys hunting and seen the same thing happen. And, you know, they never, but they just kept on going. And this deer all he did is, just like you say, he just came right back behind him. And sometimes the guy had just had sense enough to stop and look back every once in a while. Probably would have got a shot at the deer.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They were just looking a little bit left and right, and mostly forward kind of thing. And it's amazing. There's so much to be learned about actually getting out and hunting, though, too. I mean, some things you got to learn by personal experiences. And obviously you had great teachers, but you spent a lot of time actual observations, actual hunting, actual situations kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And that's why, to me, it's so important for people to attend your seminars. And I know you're working on a book. I can't wait to see that book. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me about this book that you're working on.
Well, you know, I'm God bless them, Field and Stream, and the powers that be at Field and Stream and Outdoor Life, and have been after me for close to 20 years to write a book.
Yes, sir.
And I just never had the time, Larry. And
well,
you know how time-consuming it is.
It is, yes.
Yeah. And by the way, over the years, I just can't thank you enough for your advice that you've given me, and I really, really appreciate it. What I'm getting to now, and we talked a little bit about it. I'm actually thinking on, instead of writing one book, because I got so much material, with your suggestion, write a book on stocking, which would be my grandfather's five basic principles, and then write another book on tracking, or write the tracking one first and then the stocking one. But it's over a lifetime of doing this, and a lifetime of seeing, my grandfather and my uncles and my cousins and knocking down big bucks on a regular basis, when most people, now this is Maine. We're talking the Maine woods here.
Yes, sir.
Right. This isn't.
This is not easy hunting.
This is not easy hunting, and the
This
woods
is tough hunting.
And as you know, the woods are endless.
Yes.
They go on forever. So, and they're thick. So when I wanted that growing up, when seeing my grandfather and my uncle shooting big bucks all the time, and I wanted that knowledge, and I wanted to learn, and thank God they were gracious enough. I had the best grandfather and grandmother that ever drew breath. I really did. I mean, you talk about just absolutely wonderful, wonderful people, and it was such a blessing. And I had wonderful uncles that my grandfather literally taught. So it was all handed down through the family, and I wanted that. So the book is basically about tracking and stalking, and more of, like my seminar, it's more of, I want people to get it. Like you, Larry, I have a thirst for knowledge, but I also have a thirst to help people. So and I've been criticized about giving out too much information, but my response to them is, what's God want us to do?
Amen.
Help our fellow man.
Amen.
If I can help somebody out, I'm going to do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So a lot of this book that I've got quite a lot. I'm to a point now where I've got so many pages written. That's why I asked you if you.
I really think you ought to do it in 2 books.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning because of.
And I think I would start with the stalking book. I really would. You've got so much information there because of the time that you've also spent, not just in Texas, but in Colorado and all those other kind of things. And the principles there are the same, regardless of
the terrain or the animal.
Exactly. Yeah. And so to me, there's so much great information that can be garnered by those folks who will read that book. So I think I would do the stalking one first, and then I'd kind of leave the door open, and so kind of lead into the tracking book as well after that. But to me, the stalking book, I think that's where I would start.
I appreciate.
And I can't wait to see it, because I know some of I've heard some of the stories, and I hope you include some of those stories about some of the individual hunts, and what you learned from them.
Oh yeah, because. Another thing, too, Larry, is my grandfather always said, at the end of the day, take at least 5 minutes or whatever time you need to reflect on the day's events. What I did right, what I did wrong. If given the opportunity again, what would I do differently? And by doing so, you're storing knowledge. Because if you spend enough time in the woods, it is going to happen again. Oh, yeah. And next time you'll be ready for it.
Exactly. Yeah. We're all going to make mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I could write a book on that.
Believe me, I think I could write numerous volumes about things I did wrong and things I screwed up on when I was out in the woods. But the important thing is learning from those mistakes.
Absolutely.
I've been around some guys who are pretty darn decent hunters, but they didn't learn from their mistakes, and they continually repeated them again and again and again, and they go, man, I can't understand why I'm not finding any deer, why I'm not seeing any deer. And they go, well, what did you do the last time when you didn't see any deer? Why was it that you did not see any deer? You reckon you might be doing the same thing as still? People get caught in these patterns of doing things, and when they do, sometimes they're not learning in those situations. They're not keeping their eyes open. They're not paying attention to what's actually happening. We talked a little bit about where I live in Texas and where I hunt in Texas. We have got I've got many opportunities. So I've got an opportunity to try different things, to try different sounds, to try different things. And the good thing is there, if I screw up, I can go a mile over and try again. But having learned from that here, in these kind of situations such as you hunt, you don't have that number of deer.
No.
And so you have to do things as close to perfect as you possibly can every time you go out.
Yeah. And you know, you're 100% right. And mindset is everything. It's everything. And I was walking out of the yard one day, Larry. Most people in the United States that talk funny, they'd call it a yard. We call it a yard.
Yard.
Yeah. So I was walking out of the yard one day, and I had my 30-30 Winchester trapper model over my shoulder, and by the end of the barrel, and my grandfather, he called over to me and he said, "Hey lad, where you going?" And I was probably 15, 16. I said, "I'm going deer hunting." And he said, "What?" And I could tell by his tone of voice, he didn't like what I had to say.
Sir.
He said, "Get over here." So I walked over to him and I said, "Yeah, Grandpa?" And he said, "What did you say to me?" I said, "I'm going deer hunting." He goes, "That's what I thought you said." He says, "You ever say that to me again, lad, I'll hit you so hard you'll starve to death bouncing." He goes, "You're going to kill a deer." He goes, "Set your mind and set it now, or go to hell back in the house and watch TV like the rest of the kids. Set your mind and set it now, or all you're going to be doing is taking your gun for a walk like most people do. You're going to kill a deer. Don't you dare ever say that to me again." And you know what, Larry? No truer words have ever been spoken.
You're right.
No truer words have ever been spoken. Because it's all about mindset, and it's all about staying focused.
It is. Staying focused and paying attention.
Paying attention. And every day in the field, you're trying to be better than you were the day before.
And every day in the field, there's an opportunity to learn.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
And that said, the more days you do get to spend out in the field, the more the greater opportunities you have to learn about different things. And doing what you do and having made your living essentially the way that you've done over the last several years, particularly in the outdoors, not talking about the seminars. And folks, if you get an opportunity to go attend a Randy Flannery seminar and you love the outdoors, whether you're a deer hunter, a bear hunter, turkey hunter, I don't really care, you're going to learn something. And it's based upon real world happenings. It's not theory. It's not sitting in front of a computer and making things up and looking at graphs. This is the real deal. Randy Flannery is the real deal, and if you pay attention to him, you're going to learn a tremendous amount about wildlife, about habitat, about terrain, about hunting, and having that positive attitude. My dad used to put me out on a deer stand, and we had small properties, so we couldn't hunt, but his last statement would be, he said, "Now stay awake." Well, he knew he wasn't going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But that was his way of saying, pay attention to the squirrels, pay attention to the birds. Watch deer movement. If a doe comes out or something comes out, what are they doing? All those kind of things. And you do those same kind of things here on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. And your map and compass is your lifeline. Without it, you're done. You're completely done. The woods are too big and too thick. I mean, the piece of woods that we've been in, you and I have been in all week, is 285,000 acres. That's a pretty good chunk.
That's a big chunk, and you better know where you are and where you're going, and then how to get out of there, because
exactly.
There's many a step in there that also involves stepping over, in, around, crawling around logs, underneath, getting down on hands and knees. It's not like going on a walk on a paved road or anything like that on top of everything else. So you need to know what you're doing when you get into these woods.
No question, because one bad move can be a detriment.
It can be a fatal move.
Yeah, it can be a fatal
It really
move.
can in the long run.
And I wanted to, the statement you made a couple minutes ago about me being the real deal, and I appreciate it so much. But I think, Larry, I know that's why and how you and I became such dear friends over 30 years ago, because woodsmen know who are woodsmen and who aren't woodsmen. And our very first conversations, and as you know, I know and love Texas dearly. But
and I'm glad you do, because I can't wait to get you back down there.
Well, I can't wait to be there. The toughest part about Sharon and I, because she loves it dearly too, going to Texas, it's leaving Texas.
He's leaving, yes, sir.
So what I saw right off the bat, in our very first conversations, is number one, that you're an educated guy, and number two is you're a woodsman, and your dad saw to that. And I'm a woodsman because my grandfather, my uncle saw to that. And what's missing today, Larry, is dads like and granddads like we had to say, okay, I expect to meet you at this point.
Right.
And they don't care how you figure out how to get to that point.
Exactly.
But they expect you to be there
Yep.
when they want you there.
Yep.
And that's what's missing to this day, from the very first time we met, I respected you greatly. Of course, I knew who you were, and admired your stuff for years. But once we got to know each other, that respect just grew tenfold, because you are a woodsman and you've got a thirst for knowledge, and you're constantly trying to get better at it. And that's what I've always told my guides. That's what I've always told my kids. Every day is a day to learn.
It is. It is. If you've got to me, you keep an open mind, keep a very positive attitude with whatever you do.
Yeah.
And then learning, it just makes you not only a better hunter, it makes you a better person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Randy, I've got so many more things I want to talk to you about. We've got to get ready here for a hunt, our last one of the afternoon,
Yep.
our last afternoon. Do you mind if we're not tracking a bear somewhere late this evening, you mind sitting down and let's talk a little bit about this hunt, talk about bear hunting, and maybe touch a little bit on moose hunting as well?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us here around the DSC Campfire. Look forward to seeing you right back here next week. In the meantime, we'll probably skip a few episodes before we do the next one. Randy, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
We have Wilderness Escape Outfitters. We're on Upper Hot Brook Lake in Danforth, outside of Danforth, Maine. And our number is 207-448-3238, and our website is wildernessescape.com.
And we'll be sure to get that in the show notes as well, too. Thank you for joining me around the campfire, Randy. We'll be back a little bit later. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see y'all right back here next week.
DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon has also been brought to you by The Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, the Texas Wildlife Association, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.